How's it going? How's it going? Hopefully everyone's doing all right. Hopefully everyone's doing all right. Because I certainly am. Work is going great. We have a Speaker of the House, but I don't know what's gonna come of it. We have to see what the bills are gonna be presented and see what comes of it. But as of right now, Mike Johnson from Louisiana wins House Speaker election, ending the historic 3-week GOP impasse. Here, what does the left have to say? Rep. Mike Johnson of Louisiana, social conservative and evangelical Christian, was unanimously elected as the next Speaker of the House, becoming the second in line to the president. Now, I'm pretty sure it wasn't unanimous because I'm pretty sure all the Democrats voted for someone else. Johnson relatively lacks major enemies and has good relationship with both hard right members and the more vulnerable lawmakers within the Republican Party, likely to contribute to his election as Speaker. As a staunch conservative, Johnson has been involved in controversial actions such as his support for a bill that restricts federal funds from promoting certain materials for children and his participation in a lawsuit to halt the certification of the 2020 election results. According to the center, Mike Johnson is a staunch conservative and ally of former President Donald Trump, has been elected the Speaker of the House, ending weeks of Republicans infighting. Well, the difference between Republicans and Democrats is the GOP is more about the individuals. I mean, I know there's a uniparty and they can't vote for party line, but the infighting isn't really infighting, it's debates that we see out in the open. The Democrats, there's infighting, they're fractured, but they're able to keep a veil of secrecy. No one's letting us into their debates. Johnson victory represents a triumph for the ideology right-wing Trump-aligned faction of the Republican Party as their candidates gain more support than the moderates. Johnson's election was supported by the former President Donald Trump, who urged Republicans to vote for him, and he also won with the backing of more moderate New York Republicans. Of course, on the right, Mike Rep was elected the House Speaker in a 220 to 209 vote, replacing Kevin McCarthy. Johnson's an ally of the former President Trump, has been vocal about the issues of social media, censorship, a Biden family corruption scandal, and the Department of Justice targeting of conservatives or just normal Americans who are fed up with certain educational practices. House Republicans went through a series of nominees for speakers, including Steve Scalise, Jim Jordan, and Tom Emmer, before ultimately selecting Johnson. Let's see your comparison. I don't think we really gotta read all that. This one is from KRDO.com, CNN Politics. This was written by CNN News Source, by Claire Foran, Harry Tubman, Sam Folson, Morgan Rimmer, and Christian Wilson at CNN. Trump ally Mike Johnson elected to Speaker of the House 3 weeks after McCarthy ouster. Let's see here. How long is this? But there's comments. Let's see. The Republican-led House elected Mike Rep. Johnson as new House Speaker on Wednesday, a major leadership change that comes 3 weeks after historical ouster of Kevin McCarthy. Johnson, a vocal supporter of former President Donald Trump and key congressional figure, in a failed efforts to overturn the 2020 election, will now take the reins of a bitterly divided House Republican majority and faces looming threats of a government shutdown next month. Johnson elevation puts an end to the paralysis in the House has been stuck in after McCarthy was pushed out by hardline conservatives, an unprecedented move that plunged the chamber into uncharted territory. Is it really uncharted territory or just in your lifetime? There's been Speaker of the House that's been probably vacated or died in office that left a vacancy. I don't know if it's went on for 3 weeks, but we've been without a speaker for a while in the past. Republicans tried and failed 3 separate times to coalesce behind a new speaker nominee before ultimately uniting around Johnson, a conservative lawmaker who has so far a relatively low profile on the national stage. His remarkable show of unity following weeks of fierce of GOP infighting. All right, CNN. The Louisiana Republican was also elected with 220 votes and no Republican defections. So the GOP unanimously voted for him. The Democrats all voted no. The new speaker will now face a litany of pressing issues. Government funding set to expire on November 17th, and the GOP-controlled House will need to work with Democrats-led Senate to avert a shutdown, setting an early leadership test for Johnson. Lawmakers must also decide whether to send further aid to Ukraine as it fights a war against Russia aggression, as well as aid to Israel in its war against Hamas. There's widespread bipartisan support for aid for Israel, but many House Republicans are opposed to sending additional aid to Ukraine. Johnson, fresh off his victory of the House, said he'll pursue an aggressive schedule in the weeks ahead and allude that the chaos that had paralyzed the House and distracted from GOP agenda. You're going to see an aggressive schedule in the days and weeks ahead. You're going to see Congress working as hard as it ever worked, and we're going to deliver for the American people, he said. We've gone through a little bit of suffering, we've gone through a little bit of character building, and you know what has produced more strength and more preservation and a lot of hope, and that we are about to deliver to the American people, assuming that the Congress, assuming that the Senate will pass your bills and Joe Biden doesn't veto them. See, your new speaker takes over following weeks of chaos. Let's see here. Yeah. I mean, that's really the only part about it. Let's see here. Johnson has a background as a staunch conservative Republican and ardent Trump supporter. After the election was called in favor of Joe Biden, November the 7th, 2020, Johnson posted on X, then known as Twitter, I call for President Trump to say this: stay strong and keep fighting, sir. The nation is depending upon your resolve. We must exhaust every available legal remedy to restore Americans' trust in the fairness of our election system. Johnson also serves as the Judiciary Committee and the Armed Services Committee. He's also the former chair of the Republican Study Committee. As CNN KFIL has reported, Johnson has a history of harsh anti-gay language. Oh no, anti-gay language from his time as attorney from a socially conservative legal group in the mid-2000s. Editorials that ran his local Shreveport, Louisiana paper, The Times, Johnson called homosexuality an inherent, unnatural, and dangerous lifestyle that would lead to legalized pedophilia and even possibly destroy the entire democratic system. I mean, leave them damn kids alone is all I gotta say. In another editorial, he wrote, your race, creed, and sex are what you are, while homosexuality and cross-dressing are things you do. This is a free country, but we don't give special protections for every person's bizarre choices. Interesting. At the time, Johnson was an attorney and spokesperson for the Alliance Defense Fund, today known as the Alliance Defending Freedom, where he also authored his opposition to the Supreme Court ruling Lawrence versus Texas, which overturned state laws that criminalize homosexuality activity between consenting adults. I mean, I am going to say that this is a little alarming. I think we do need some nationalists, some nationalism pride, some patriotic pride. And I understand that being patriotic and nationalistic are two separate words, but I kind of do see the GOP or the new GOP could lead into a little too much nationalistic pride, like the likes we've seen in 1930. And let's just say, I mean, the tells are there, but I'm hoping that they won't go full blown, but just enough to make American first policies, but leave the social construct alone to a certain degree, if that makes sense. So here in 2022, Johnson introduced a bill that have some describe as national version of what Sites calls for Florida's Don't Say Gay bill. The story has been updated with additional development, blah, 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 blah. Let's see here. Unfortunately, he stands for a better chance of getting in than most in recent candidates. He's a Trump supporter. He's an anti-abortion, anti-same-sex marriage, anti-medical marijuana. He's against aid to Ukraine, and he voted to overturn the 2020 election results. Sounds much more like your typical Republican politicians. I mean, the good news is his confirmation means that the House Republicans have finally get the message that they have to unite themselves before anything else. And there is no additional comments. Let's see. That's pretty much it. That's all I got. That being said, what are your thoughts about Mike Johnson? You think he'll be a good Speaker of the House, or is he too extreme, or is he not extreme enough? Leave a comment down below, but most importantly, have yourself a wonderful day, morning, or evening.